Talking to you, wouldn't you like to be my friend?
So I spoke with Mr. Kelly last week just about this group, and I heard a lot of great things. And he had spoken to me about coming and just kind of speaking to you guys about college, the whole thing, because I just finished my sophomore year. I don't know how it went by that fast. I'll be a junior in the fall. So it's moving quickly, and I'm just going to here to offer some insight and just have a small conversation on college. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. I'm not too rushed at all. But yeah, so I went to Holy Trinity from 2007 to 2011. And while I was there, just to give you guys some background, there were 15 African American males in my senior class. So it was out of a class of about 400, 58 African American females, 60 Latino and Latina people of descent, and then the rest were white, usually Catholic Irish or Italian. So we were the minority at Holy Trinity. And so going into that situation, of course, you have the people that expect certain things from you. So my freshman year, I remember being asked basically about why did I speak so well? That was like the question happened in every single class. Like, why do I carry myself a certain way? Why do I know how to tie a tie? It was just like something that was just awkward to me. And of course, going into a situation, you're like, well, that makes no sense. This is how I was raised to hold a certain standard, to do a certain thing. So why is it that in high school, in 2007 at that point in time, people still think these ways that my grandmother used to talk about in 1944 and 45. So it was just weird. But I think, especially since you guys are part of a group that's about community service and doing things actively in Hempstead, you'll start seeing that the more you do and the more positive things you lead yourself to in life, the more people tend to criticize you, or there's going to be fewer supporters and many haters that do arise as you go along. That's a good thing, because it means you're doing something right usually, and that people will talk a lot about you, and it happens in college too, trust me. You think you go away to college, people get more mature. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily happen that way. But the reason I want to tell you that was because even though I am a man of color, I'm now at Syracuse University, not an athlete, and I'm black, so that's a pretty huge thing because most people that are African American at Syracuse still either play football or basketball. So, and that's still a demographic. But I'm there on an academic scholarship, and that's why I'm there. That's why I'm going to finish my education and continue moving on. But the biggest thing I want to tell you that the high school story about was because no matter what you put yourself through in life or what people put upon you, it's up to you to determine your success. So if you want to go to a Syracuse, you put it in your mind, you just do it. Like if somebody doesn't support that, great, they can think that, moving on to the next one. Because like I said, there's plenty of haters in this world, but very, very few supporters. So yeah, about college in general, the transition from high school to college is definitely interesting at first. But I do encourage everybody, if you want to move forward in education, which you all should because you're all bright young people, do it. It's going to be difficult, but not everything in life is meant to be easy. The things that are harder actually are the more beneficial for you. So my senior year going into my freshman year of college, it was rough because I go from small little high school on Long Island to a school with over 20,000 people. And so every day is a new face. Professors that you're in a large auditorium, and this would be introductory classes, so it was a different environment. But I made myself stand out. I spoke to all my professors, made sure I was really passionate about what I was doing, and then Syracuse quickly became very small for me. So pretty much, if anything, you have to learn how to control the situations that you're in and just make your own way, which you guys are all capable of doing despite what you may have heard growing up or what people may say. If you're here doing something like this senior citizen prom, that's big stuff, and that should continue as you go into college and as you continue on with your lives, because community service and just being passionate in general is really essential to success that I found. I'm gonna leave it at there. That's just like a quick little thing. You guys have any questions, just let me know about college in specific. Go ahead.
What are you majoring in?
I'm political science and policy studies, so I plan to go to master's school after to get my public administration master's, and then law school after that. So that was 6 more years. Thank you. Yeah, Syracuse 2017. You'll see me a lot in the fall.
I was looking more big, but
Okay.
what is the C-STEP program? I mean, the C-STEP and the summer stuff. Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice. Quick thing on that. Every college has resources. No matter where you go, whether you go to Hofstra, I'm thinking locally, so Hofstra, Malloy, Nassau, if you choose to go to community college, St. John's in Queens. Every school has resources, especially for people of color, but they do not advertise them. So he's speaking on a program called C-STEP. C-STEP can help you pay for your books every semester. They help you get internships and research experience, which is very important in college. And they also serve as a mentorship aspect. So if he goes in there nice and early in August and says, hey, I can't afford, these $2,000 worth of textbooks, they'll find the money to help him pay for those books. I have not paid for books since the first semester of my freshman year, because you just find the right people, you make the right story, and they usually pay for things. So tap into those resources. And they're not going to be advertised, because if it was free money, people aren't going to advertise it off the bat. But use those resources. Every school has them, so I would definitely encourage you guys to look for that. Any questions? So seniors, how many seniors do we have in here? So you guys obviously all applied already, and you know where you're pretty much going, or some of you guys, like, who's still trying to decide on school at this point? I know it's kind of late because it's almost June. So where's everybody going, just so I can know?
I'm going to Cornell.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The seniors.
Seniors? Nice. Down the street from Syracuse.
Johnson Wells.
NYU. Great.
Stony Brook.
My mom went there, so this
Who
one.
else is there?
Go to Nassau.
Okay.
That's everybody?
I think so.
All right.
Well, everyone is in the room.
Right. No, that's great. With Cornell and Albany, literally you'll find when you're upstate, everything's down the street. So like you're an hour from Syracuse, like an hour and a half away from Albany. So you'll probably be seeing each other a lot, just because everybody travels on a given weekend to different schools. It's really close upstate. But as far as like the Long Island schools and other places, those are all great places. NYU, Johnson & Wales, great schools. And then so I guess since you guys know where you're going now, do you have any worries about college? Because I know it's probably going to pick up in August when things start setting, like, oh gosh, I'm going to college, it's going to get legit. But any questions about at least the first semester? Because first semester, I will say, makes or breaks a lot of people.
So you recommend that when I was Syracuse, I should talk to all my professors and make sure that they like get a really good relationship with them?
Right. So just to break it down, like since you're a freshman, usually you take a lot of introductory classes. So those are like, how you have like, you take bio in high school, chemistry, all the things that are pretty much essential for you to get your degree. So Syracuse is liberal arts, so we have these core courses, so they're usually larger because everyone has to take them. So if you're in a class with 300 people, it doesn't happen that often, but you might hit one lecture that's like 300 people. You don't want to just be a student that sits in the back or on the right, because oftentimes, if you need help, the professor's like, yeah, I see your name on my list, but I don't know much about you. So what I did my freshman year, the first week, which is usually orientation week, you get to go around to your classes, just see where they're at. If you can stop in and say hi to a professor for 5 minutes, just hi, my name is Ronald Taylor, I'm a freshman, I'm excited for your course. That's pretty much it. At least they'll see that face, and you can actually build that relationship. And then this becomes important because this summer I'm interning in Washington, D.C., and every single recommendation letter came from professors that I had in my freshman year. Barely one from my sophomore year, because I had either the same people or professors that are just too busy to even write recommendations. So basically all my freshman year professors wrote my recommendations to get down to DC this summer. So those relationships are really important. But yes, I do suggest that.
What is, you said you're doing an internship?
Yes.
Where?
All right, so I'm working at a consulting firm, and so consulting is essentially doing research on a certain issue. So I'm political science and policy, like I said. So I'm doing educational research because my focus is education as it pertains to minority communities in Syracuse. So essentially this summer I'll be working on pretty much Race to the Top, that whole program that Obama put out. I get to analyze what's effective, what's ineffective. Is it actually going to work? And then part of my job position is suggesting how local communities, so like how Hempstead, New York, can actually implement parts of that national initiative. Because what you guys have to realize is that the president can get out and say, all right, I want Hempstead High School to have a dance class, third period every day. That's great, but the president cannot necessarily interfere with schools because schools and government are kind of separated. So even with your school board here, Mayor Hall can't touch anything in the school board, which is a huge thing people don't understand. It's the school board and superintendent, Mayor Hall, Village of Hempstead. They can't intertwine. And so essentially Mayor Hall can say, I want something done, but the school board has to get it done. So now how do you get the school board to listen to what Mayor Hall or President Obama says? You throw money at it. So right now there's a lot of things called grants that go around, especially down here, that say if you implement this leg of Race to the Top, we'll throw an extra $1 million into your school district a year. So that's the incentive behind it. But unfortunately, not all school districts are tapping into that. So for example, in Hempstead, we're missing out on a lot of funding because people aren't willing to change the way the school district is basically moving right now. There's been slight changes, but compared to surrounding districts, we're missing out on, I would say, upwards of about, $10 million in many situations, just because we don't want to change one course from this direction to that direction. So that's what I'm doing. It's going to be exciting. A lot of work though. When you get into consulting, it's a lot of numbers and Microsoft Excel. It gets to your head, but it's something that's really lucrative and it's important. Side note on me as well, I'm also a teaching specialization at Syracuse. So I do my political science stuff, but I also teach because education is my focus. So I'll have class like from 9 till 1, then I'll do student placement from 2:30 to like 5 at a local school in Syracuse in the afternoon. So that's just more about what I'm doing. So you can do a lot. And I managed to be in 6 student organizations. It's important to prioritize because like at Syracuse or Albany, even a Cornell has a pretty good party life. And I mean, you'll be in situations where it's going to be like a party from Thursday at like 5 in the afternoon until literally Sunday night. And people will not care for the entire semester. Especially if you have like a large Greek life pop. Like Syracuse has almost every fraternity and sorority that pretty much exists for the most part. So it's like any given weekend you can party hop from like 5 in the afternoon until 3 o'clock the next morning.
Do you have an opinion on pledging?
I personally am not pursuing an organization just because I don't agree with some of the chapters that Syracuse I'd be interested in. So I mean, I support it. My family is Greek. I have Deltas in my family. I have Omegas in my family. Even some Sigma Gamma Rhos and Zeta Phi Betas and Alpha Kappa Alpha. So we have pretty much the NPC in our family. But I would say if you're going to pledge an organization, do your research, especially upstate, because these chapters are, some chapters are great, some chapters are not so great. So I would say do your research, know what you're getting into. Remember you're a student first, because some organizations, people go on like a 3.9 pledge and come out with a 2.3, that makes no sense. You're there to be a student, and there's always graduate school opportunities. So after you graduate undergrad, if you really want to be a member of Delta Sigma Beta Sorority Incorporated, you can go ahead and do a graduate. You don't have to do an undergrad. But I would say look into that. And also, just so you guys know about Greek life, there's multiple councils. So for predominantly African American, it's not exclusive to African Americans, but it's majority African American, is the National Panhellenic Council. So that's Alpha Phi Alpha, Phi Beta Sigma, Omega Psi Phi, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, no, I said it already. That's the beginning row. So pretty much Martin King Jr., Huey Newton, the leader of the Black Panthers, was a member of Phi Beta Sigma. So a lot of prominent African American leaders you do see actually are members of fraternities and sororities in the National Panhellenic Council. The majority of Latino and Latino organizations is called the National Association of Latino Fraternal Organizations. And that's like 12 organizations. So they range from quite a bit. They were all founded basically in the 1990s on, except for I think 1 or 2. And then there's like the ones you see in movies, like the predominantly white ones. And the stereotype is kind of true. They do often party a lot and drink a lot. Say they do service, but it's not too blatant. I'm not gonna be rude, but I'm speaking from experience. But yeah, there's pretty much everything up there. I mean, I'm in an academic fraternity, which is Alpha Kappa Psi, which is a business fraternity. I did that for networking purposes to meet more people of Asian and Caucasian descent. That was really it. I wanted to expand my network. it's an organization that's big on the business side, so that's why I did that for academics. But yeah, go ahead.
I know that you said that in the summer that you're going to DC. I guess kind of like St. Petersburg. Besides, because I know your friend's been here for quite some time, right? What's one political, I guess, interest of yours that you feel like you would probably touch on when you get there?
In Washington?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So, because I'm in Washington, it's going to be very national. So, like, when I did stuff here back home, I was in high school, all local politics and policy. So it was nice. It's really intimate. You see the same faces. Whereas in Washington, for my internship, it's going to be basically educational research. But as far as policy focus, I'm really trying to get at least 2 days at the Department of Education just to see what other initiatives are being pushed besides Race to the Top. So that's a great initiative, but there's also things with funding coming up, and with all these school board cycles, there's going to be a lot of new policies being pushed. And the Department of Education collects that data and does the studies. So like, let's say Hempstead does something that increases the graduation rate by like 5% in 4 years. That's huge. So then the Department of Ed would want to know what they did here. So I was just looking at that type of policy because I do intend running office potentially here in Hempstead. Not sure if I'm going to go on the mayor's side or more school board side. It depends on where my life kind of falls over the next 2 years and where my focus is. But from what I will say, that's where my, I guess, policy focus is. But the thing with the internship is they can give you education today, health tomorrow, military the next day. So it's going to probably switch for me throughout the week. But it's going to keep me fresh in all the different policies. I probably won't do too much sleep in the summer, but hey, it's a great experience. And consulting is, it's pretty much how you make some money fresh out of college if you don't go straight through. But yeah, that's my life.
It's kind of a little bit off topic academically, but all right. So, how many like barbers are on campus?
Yeah, I know. So
Opportunity, right?
pretty much with Syracuse.
Yeah.
To be honest, Syracuse, in your case, Syracuse is like a downtown, not the down south town. It feels like that so much, especially when it gets hot outside. You feel like you're in Alabama. Literally. So in our campus at least, we have a main street called Marshall Street, which you probably hit, and there's basically for African Americans and Latinos, there's one spot called Campus Cuts. They have 3 barbers there, so they're pretty solid. It's the most frequent because it's the closest to campus. The next closest spot is maybe 2 miles down the way. But there's people that are on campus doing their little side hustle. I don't know about everybody, so I don't trust everybody with my head. But I would say there's not many people on campus, but close to barbershop spots. But I've seen that's financial aid. You don't have to worry about taking care of anything else. Books, I mean, it's usually all right. It's just your living pressure. Then sophomore year sets in, and then people's aid gets adjusted because of certain things. And if you have like that 1 year scholarship from certain organizations, you feel the hurt when it disappears. But freshmen who are rich, enjoy it. But yeah, shoot, if you put your work out and if you cut the right people and whatnot, you can definitely build your brand. Like this one girl, her name is Courtney. Freshman year, she had an easy bake oven and a skillet, and she would make little cupcakes. And she would just sell them out her dorm room. Easy bake oven and a skillet. This year, she won a $10,000 grant from Syracuse to start her business in Syracuse with a location. She now has delivery drivers, apprentices, and she's African American female doing a thing, 3.8 GPA, doing a thing. Has her own business called Thunder Cakes, and it's actually going for a 501c3 status next year. So it's like freshman year, junior year, she literally Madam CJ Walker her entire life. So it's very great. I look at her, I'm like, if I could be like you, my girl. But yeah, like she had a hustle. I mean, she's there, and her major is entrepreneurship. So she literally did it, and so now when she graduates, she can keep going with her business and go large, or she can pursue something more corporate. But she had a vision. You come and have a vision, know what you want to do. She had a vision. She carried it out, pursued it. Now she has 10 grand from a university that's known for entrepreneurship, especially, and now she's living. So I mean, of course, it's hard work. She had some nights where she didn't go to bed till like 5 o'clock in the morning, got up at 6. But she put in the hard work. Now she has an actual business at the age of 20. a business, not a mom and pop play around thing, a business. Like if you go into the National Register of Businesses, it says Courtney Fudge Undercakes Incorporated. It's legit. So, and the name was pretty catchy too, like Undercakes. You can't forget that. But yeah, so that's Syracuse. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of have a little conversation. I hate talking too long. At least myself. I like to hear from other people. But yeah, going with the vision. You all have the vision, and like to be honest, the last thing I'm gonna say, at least for me at least, is my grandfather. When they moved out here in 1949, yeah. The words he kept saying pretty much once Dr. King came up and about was how far, not far, and how long, not long. And that's a question you should definitely ask yourself, especially freshman year in college, because you're gonna be like, yo, why am I sitting here stressing in college? I'm stressed, why I'm doing this to myself. But you have to always ask yourself, how far to the end? It's not far at all. How long? It's not long. And that carried me through the past 2 years, because there's been some days where I'm like, why am I political science? I don't care what these people have to say. I don't feel like studying anymore. I hate this entire major. But I buckled down, did what I had to do. I have 2 more years left. And I'm really a year and a half, so I'll be down here in the city teaching next spring semester for an internship. So it's moving quick, and I'm like, man, I'm about to be in the real world. I'm like, 2 years, it's crazy. But if you buckle down and just understand what your vision and your vocation are, or your calling, another word for vocation, it's simple. I mean, college is what you make it. Surround yourself with the right people, and just do it. And then,
I just have one last question regarding community service
Yes.
in college. You know, I know that you said that you were involved with a few organizations. Can you speak a little bit about the community service portion of it? Because I know that's what you and I
Yeah.
talked about.
definitely. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Community service. So, I guess I should actually ask this question. How many of you all enjoy what you're doing now as far as community service, giving back? Be honest, if you don't enjoy it, don't raise your hand. If you do, raise your hand. Alright. So, I asked that question because actually every hand should have went up. And I say that because community service is not a duty. It's not like, this chore or task. It's more so something you should actually enjoy, and you should understand that your giving back is actually something that should be, it should make you feel good inside. It should be something good for you. And so don't look at community service as I should do this because if I do 50 hours a week, it looks good for college. If you do it that way, it's horrible. It's going to become a task. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not doing the true service. In Syracuse, we're a huge community service school. So to give you guys some perspective, the city of Syracuse, it's rough. If you think Hempstead has some downfalls, Syracuse makes Hempstead look like Garden City in certain situations. We have a 21% graduation rate from the high schools. Violence, shoot. I feel like, last summer there was a murder every 3 days. So it was intense. It's going down because the new mayor, she's no joke. She came in and she turns it up. But what I will say is that Syracuse is not the best condition or situation. But at least this chancellor we do have now, she's very progressive. Her name is Nancy Cantor. She's actually leaving your freshman year, which is really bad. She's done a lot. But she basically came in and said, I don't want Syracuse to be an ivory tower. We should be a school that's in the community. Because if you're in the community, you learn about the community. And college is about both your schoolwork as well as the field work. So she pushed for that. So literally, you have students going down to teach for free. You have students going down into community centers, running mentorship programs. So that's like our initiative. But on my personal side, I love kids. This little man over here, even though sometimes he does some things that drive me up the wall, I love him. I love young people, and I love working with young people. So when I was in high school, I did a mentorship program called CPR at Union Baptist Church, which was with about 20 young people from Uniondale, Hempstead, Roosevelt, Glen Cove at one point, and even as far as Lion Ranch. And we came together, and we really focused on how to help each other get to the next step. So that started in, 2009. That's when I really spearheaded, my sophomore year of high school, I really spearheaded that. And the goal was, if I'm talking to this group right now, if you need something, we can get you to that. If you want to get interested, if you're interested in medicine, what doctor can we connect you with? And that's what we really focused on. And out of the 20 that all started with that program, everybody's in college or in a trade school. So no one's just chilling at home right now. So everybody went out and did something. And so I said, you know what? How can I take what I did here in Hempstead and bring it to Syracuse, but work with younger people, because it has to start earlier, because I work with high school kids here. So I went to Syracuse, started in a community center, and I started off with 2 kids. One girl's name was Sasha, the other one's name was Laquana. That's Laquana, because I told them the name when I first met her. But Sasha and Laquana, and they were both in 5th grade. This was my freshman year, so 2 years ago now. And they both were like, I would say they were really just depressed on life. Because Syracuse, honestly, if you get caught up in it, it's depressing, even as a young person. And so I focused on really helping them find their inner voice and building their leadership qualities. And now they're both in middle school, both in the honor roll. I'm not saying that it was really me that did it, but whenever they come to the community center, they are never frowning, they're smiling, they always want to help the new kids in the program. And honestly, I feel like when I graduate, they can run the program themselves at the age of like 13, because they're just so passionate about what they're doing. So for me, I was like, all right, so if I can come in here for a year and do a transformation that way, that's something good, and I should continue moving with that. So if you want to give back to your community, which you ought to, just because you didn't get here by yourself. You know, there was somebody that poured into you, whether it was that lady that gave you a quarter in 2nd grade to get a snack, whether it was that bus driver that you used to hate, they taught you how to watch your mouth and not say profane things on the bus. There was somebody that poured into you, and so because you live in that environment, you ought to give back. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it takes a village to raise a child. And even though you guys are still, you know, high school, about to go to college, you're still part of that village. So if you know a 10-year-old that's doing poorly in math, you can do fractions. You know, you're pretty good at that. Why don't you help them out? Because you don't know what that encounter could do for them. You don't know what that experience could do. That's why at least I do community service. And if whatever school you go to, there's gonna be a lot of opportunities, and you'll find out the more that you do of yourself and you give away, you know, and you do for community service, the more opportunities that will actually open up. I mean, everyone that I met that really helped me out this far was through community service. My current job on campus was because I did community service, and the professor was impressed. My internship, if you didn't do community service, you were not going anywhere in this internship. And because I was really big about it, they're like, yeah, you really got on because you did some real work, especially your first 2 years. That's what we really want you to come down to Washington. And so, I mean, that's not the only reason why you should do it, but that's like the extra side effects that go in a positive direction. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I would say definitely pursue to give back, because if you don't, you really won't learn as much as you could have in college. That's where a lot of the learning does come from. But yeah, that's my spiel.
Oh, I have one more question.
Okay.
So in terms of like work study,
Mhm.
like, do you know how does that work? Like, if I come in as like a freshman.
Right, did you fill out your FAFSA already? All right, cool. So for those of you guys who don't know FAFSA, do it early. That's how much money Uncle Sam gives you for college, whether it's in grants or loans. If you do it late, you run out on a lot of money. It gets bad for certain people. But so you fill out a FAFSA, so with work study, let's say, so opposed to the state giving you a loan, they'll give you work study. So you would get a job on campus, and then the government pays your salary. So let's say you qualify for $3,000 worth of work study, the state or wherever your funds are dispersed from pay for your work study. And if you're a work study on campus, you'll always be employed. People like me who don't get work study, because my scholarship was too large coming in, you have to really hustle for that on-campus job, because then the school has to pay you. They do not like doing that, because then that's all money out of their pocket. But work study is great. Just be careful if you do get a job. Watch your hours, because if you work too much, you can burn through your work study. So if they give you that $3,000, you have to earn that $3,000. But if you work crazy the first half of the semester, you hit that $3,000 mark, you get fired from that job, because that's when the funding stops. So budget your time out a certain way. It's all about time management and just being organized. Because you'll be going, getting that good, nice $500 paycheck a week, and then it's going to stop after 6 weeks, and you're like, oh, I still have 8 more weeks in the semester to kind of live. So that's where you have to be careful. But there's plenty of jobs. Literally, when you get onto campus, happy what he's doing. So once again, you found your passion, your vocation, your calling, it makes sense. Like your education. Syracuse is almost 60 grand a year to go to. So, I mean, if you're not getting crazy scholarships or if you're on scholarships, you better work. I mean, because it's not cheap money. Like, I don't take a lot of that. I don't have to pay for much. I mean, some people out here taking loans out the wazoo. I take out like a small $3,000 loan just to pay to eat because I can't make enough money throughout the semester to kind of keep a good, meal plan and whatnot. But it's rough, but you'll make your way. Do what you got to do. And that's it. Just do it.
Okay.